Okay, so basically, what I want to do is get people to consider and think about how they're going to be using Fantasy Grounds as a player. And then we're going to be transitioning over to more of a DM side of things. And, for anybody that's new, we do this every other Sunday. Lady Shel, when's our next episode?
Our next episode will be on the 11th of October.
Okay. We do have a Discord channel, so if you guys want to join and you want to find out how to use Fantasy Grounds or learn about it, we will have plenty of people available for you in our community to help learn and understand the software. So, we want to talk about a few things about managing characters and such, and one of them is to make sure that you save your character before leveling up. So, what we're talking about is when you're given the opportunity to level up, like after a session, let's say your game master allows you to level up. Well, before you drag over your character to level up to the next level, I recommend that you first do a right/command in the command window and type the word save and hit enter. And that will ensure that all the latest changes to your character sheet have been saved. I'm not talking about your hit points and all, I'm talking more or less just any sort of major changes or anything made during the game. Now, before you drag over your level to level up, I advise that you ask your game master if he could allow you to export your character. And in this case, we'll say this is Lady Shel. We'll say she's getting ready to go up to level 5. So before that happens, one thing we want to do is basically we're going to take a snapshot of what her character sheet was before we apply any changes or move stuff around. So what I would do is go to the character managers, which is the PC thing, and that's the banner on the right-hand side. And if you look at Lady Shel's entry here, this is her character. So if I wanted to export it, you would click on this Edit List button, which is on the very right. It's a brown circle with a line through it. If you click on that, you will notice that on her entry, there is a down arrow. And at that point, you would click on Export Character. It'll pop up a window to save it to your computer. And I would just call it Hannah Unity Level 4 or something like that. That way I know what level it is. You want to save that each time you level up. So you'll have her from level 1 all the way up to where she leaves off. There's handy for a couple reasons. One, if you make a mistake while you're building your character, you have a backup. And two, if you want to use the same character in different games, but you're already level 4, it makes it so you can go back and use at different levels. Because once you build a character, it's very difficult to go back. You can't really undo all this stuff. You have to start over. So it's better if you have copies at each level. And that's why we're bringing this up. And this is mostly a game master thing, but this is something a player should keep in mind is you definitely want to be able to manage your characters in between levels. Now, you don't have to use the exported characters once they're exported, but they're backups. So if you need to go back to level 3 for some reason, you accidentally moved over the wrong class or maybe the sheet got corrupted, whatever, it's handy to have that. So that's the first thing we wanted to talk about was how to back up your character. So again, you go to the PC banner, the game master will hit the edit list, and then there will be an export button that appears. And at that point, you can save this. And this is an XML file. It does not save the artwork, meaning the token or the actual picture here, which is called your portrait. So you have to keep that in mind. It only saves the data. All right, so the next topic is we want to make sure that you understand that any character that was made on this table, meaning on my session, or in any campaign within my table with the same rule set, you can use the characters. So what that means is, let's say you made 4 characters and you need a 5th. And you're like, crap, we got to make another one. Well, if the game master has enough characters made already, you can hit the PC banner, and we're in the character selection window, and you want to hit import character, which is this blue arrow, to access the rest of your characters that are from different campaigns. So you technically can add different characters from other campaigns as long as it's the same rule set. So I can bring in one of these other characters if I wanted to, if they were the appropriate level or the appropriate build. So that is basically how you would import a character. Another way to do it is if someone sends you a file, you can click this blue arrow once again, and it'll bring up a dialog box that will tell you or ask you where does that file exist on your hard drive. So there's two different imports. One is an internal import coming from your within Fantasy Grounds. The other would be an external import, which is a file that someone saved and sent to you, and you're going to pull that into Fantasy Grounds. Now you just make sure it's the same rule set. You don't want to try importing a Savage Worlds or something. I don't think it'll work. So anyhow, that is basically how you would import a character. And generally this is on the host side of things. So if you're not able to do this as a player, just ask your game master. Okay, so the next step is we can use any character made on that table with the same rule set, but when you import or export characters, a character might have a specific token that they want to use. And for right now, how you get it from the DM is that you have to request. So right now on Lady Shel's character sheet, I have her portrait on the top left, and then I have her token on the top right. As of now, without extensions or the rule set changing, because they might update this, I was told or I read somewhere that they might change the access level, but you go to assets if you're the game master, and you can go through here, decide which tokens they have access to, and drag and drop it over to their sheet. Now, if they want to make a choice, such as if you had a bunch of dwarves like this, I can take a screenshot and send it to Lady Shel, and then she can tell me which one she wants to use. And then I'll just drag it to her sheet. So as of right now, characters or players were not able to drag these tokens over and assign it to their character sheet. And when you export your character, this stuff doesn't come with it. So you have to send the file or you have to reassign it when you claim your character in your new session. Same thing with portraits, pretty much. If you are a player character and you have portrait, you can put them in your data folder, in your master portrait folder, and you might have access to them when you join someone's table, as long as they are in the correct folders. Now, if you don't and you want a photo, you have to send that to the DM and they'll have to manually add it. Make sure that the photo's square, not rectangular, not triangular. You want it to be square, and you want it to be no greater than 200 by 200 for dimensions, and that's also to do with your token size as well. You want to keep it like a thumbnail size, because I don't know how many times I've seen someone use a picture that's as big as this map just for this little area. So just keep that in mind. It keeps memory usage down, and you're not, using bandwidth that's not necessary. So that is one of the caveats of having your characters, is that the artwork, meaning the tokens and the portraits, do not necessarily carry over. Now, Lady Shel, would you care to tell us about your specific portrait for Hiena? I'm popping up the data folder, and I'm going to Smitework. So why is it that
Okay.
you have your own and some
I
people may
have
not?
my own because I'm a Kickstarter supporter at the Patreon level, which entitled me to have a special portrait drawn. I can't remember the guy's name that drew it,
Yeah,
but he did a wonderful job. He did one for Laerun also, and there's a bunch of people that have their own special tokens, and that's where mine came from.
this one, actually, the Scottish looking one is Zacchaeus. I think Moon Wizard is one of these elven wizard looking guys. I don't know what
And
Doug is.
Drake is the purple dragon.
Any of these people that you see here are probably community members that you may or may not know, but that's where these came from. And a lot of people that bought in at higher levels were able to gain their own token. And I'm pretty sure Rob's is in here, and there's a few other. But anyhow, that's where those tokens came from. They're accessible to anybody and that has a Smiteworks account and that's a subscriber. You'll get the tokens that comes with the base program. or actually these are portraits, not tokens. And there's also tokens that do come with the base program. Before before you buy a bunch of stuff, there is in the data folder, there are tokens that come with uh, Fantasy Grounds they have top-down ones and they have ones with bases. So that's just a matter of getting into your assets. And then your assets folder, just so you know, you have a campaign level one and a data level. So the campaign level is only available for this session. The data level will be available in any session. That goes for tokens, portraits, images. So if you have your data level and your campaign level, they're two separate directories. One is an overall, and then one is specific to campaign. But if you really want one of those tokens to be used, technically you can unzip the files if it's not a data file. If it's just a mod file, you can rename it as a zip file and unzip it. Now, if it is a token store purchased and it's an encrypted DAT file, you will not be able to unzip it. And at that point, it'll come down to the permissions of the specific table. But that may change because I was told that they might change the permission level on the character. You might be able to in the future. But for right now, only the game master can control that. And I don't remember or know, honestly, you are able to access your own tokens if your game master allows it. So I don't remember if that's true or not. So that's my answer, is pretty neutral. I don't know. Okay, so the next thing is we're going to talk about is, yeah, so we already covered portraits and tokens don't stay with the character sheet when you import or export new characters. So we already talked about that. Also, this comes up quite a bit between tables is there a Codem option? Well, really, there isn't for Fantasy Grounds. It's against the end user license agreement, the EULA. You are technically everyone's supposed to have their own license. That's what it really boils down to. A lot of people wonder if they can circumnavigate that because you can do things similar to that in other VTTs. Legally, you cannot have share an account. Although I'm sure it happens, I wouldn't recommend it. And there's other reasons why and why not. There's security reasons. There's all kinds of reasons why and why not. But each DM needs to have their own license. That's the bottom line. So if you have a DM that wants to share their account, so be it. That's on them. But legally, you're not supposed to give out your login credentials so someone else can use your account. And that's even for players too. If you do that, then you are putting yourself at risk for whatever responsibilities that that person on the other end that owns it has. So if that person is doing illegal things and you're using their account, you could be held accountable for that. Let's see, token locking demo. So we're going to get into the new token locking. If you're not aware of it, it was just implemented yesterday or the day before. There was a time where it was broken for a short period, but they went ahead and they put a patch or a hot fix to it, so it's working again. It kind of comes with some pretty unique features. I'm going to explain the differences, and then I'm going to have Lady Shel actually move her token. Now, something you need to know as a player is that your token has to be on the combat tracker first. Once it's on the combat tracker, which it is, I have Lady Shel's token. I'm going to drag her token and drop it on the map. Then, as the game master, I need to share the map. So I'm going to right click on this little pin or this buckler shield on the top left corner of the map and click sharing. And then I'm going to share this record, which would be to share the map. So Lady Shel, are you seeing the map on your side?
I am, and it's just a perfect size for my screen. Thank you.
Okay. So that is basically the first steps. Once I have shared that with her, she needs to take possession of her token. And once she has it, she can move up to her movement rate. So, Lady Shel, if you don't mind, you can do waypoints. So drag your Okay. So she moved 15 feet, and then she moved 20, and dwarves can normally move 25. So I would have to approve that movement based off of where she moved. Now, Lady Shel, you can move those waypoints. So those white buttons there, you can move those around, and it will change the distance overall. So if you had to move like if something was in your way, or if you had to change your plans on your movement path, you can move those waypoints. That's
Well,
why
what
it's,
I'm seeing on my end though is when I move that middle point over, and then it increased my end point to
yes,
40 feet.
right, which
Is
means you
that
can't do
correct?
that. No, it is.
Oh,
That means you
okay.
couldn't move that way. So I would
Okay,
have to
so
deny it
mm,
if that was the
okay.
case. So to deny it as the game master, I would have to click on the X, and she'd have to retrace her steps again.
Well, I don't want to move into the dark part. There we go.
Yeah.
Now I can see.
So
Okay,
now,
so I'll just. Do you want me to make a janky movement here?
yeah, do
5,
waypoints.
10,
Just you don't have to count.
15.
You don't have to count anymore.
Oh,
Just
oh,
move.
okay. 20,
Yep.
25. Okay, so
Yep.
there's my 25, and I ended. I kind of went up
Yep.
and then diagonal back
So what I'm
down.
going to do
So
is
there.
click this green check button, and it allows her movement. Now there are 3 settings in Fantasy Grounds for that movement. So I'm going to go into the settings options area, scroll down to the bottom. There's some house rules. So map diagonal distance by default is on standard, which means no matter which direction she goes, it's just going to count it as 5 feet. The variant rule, which is what I had it on before, was basically if you want to count every other square as 10 feet, which is more accurate, then it will do so. So if I change this to variant, then when she moves diagonally, this will cause it to count as every other square is 15 feet. If I turn this off back to standard, it's going to show 10 feet. If I change it to the next option, which is raw, this is her actual movement. She's moved 15.1 feet. And if I move it again, the raw mode gives you the fractional amount that she's moved. So that's the most accurate. Probably won't need that in most games, but if you're playing a tactical battle, that might make a difference when you have an extra foot or an extra half a foot or whatever to move. So if
Yeah, so it probably depends on the rule set. Different rule
yes,
sets may
correct,
need that type of
right.
computation.
And once I'm done, before when we had classic, when you were approving a movement, you just click the middle mouse button. Now you have to click this check button. So what's interesting is basically when you are a game master, you have to take possession of a token or a player, whatever it is. This case is Black Dragon. If you look at his stat block, which I've popped up here, it says he moves 40 feet. So Fantasy Grounds is smart enough to know that. So if you hold down the right control key and you drag it, it shows his movement. And if you drag it slow enough, when he gets to 35 feet, you'll see an arrow pop up, or there it is. So that's warning you that you're getting close to the end of your movement. And then once you're at 40, there you go. So it comes up about 5 feet before you actually see that arrow. 5 feet before the end of your movement. And then I'll just hit the check mark, and he moves ahead. All right, Lady Shel, I want you to try that. Just do a straight movement, and you'll see that the arrow will, if you move slow enough, when you're plotting out your path, let me know if you see the little arrow pop up.
Uh, doesn't look like I can go straight. There's like a something in the way, that round thing.
Well,
Like,
just go where that's a mud puddle, so
oh, okay.
you can go straight.
15, 20. Ah. 25. Okay. So just stop there.
Yep. And you
Okay.
see that arrow?
Yeah, I see like a
But
rainbow color arrow, and
yeah,
then it
well,
says
that arrow,
25 at the end.
this arrow doesn't show up until you get up to about 20. And then it'll let you know you're close to the end of your movement. So then I'll approve it and she goes forward. So what I'm saying is now on her character sheet, her movement rate is 25 feet max. So I'm going to take control of her token. And then I'm going to hold the right control key as the game master so I can emulate her movement. And if I move slow enough, what you'll see is when I get to about 20, that's when the arrow starts. See, that's where it shows up. And now when I get to, there's 25 feet right there. It doesn't stop you, but it warns you that you're getting close to the end of your movement. And then I'm going to go ahead and hit the approval, and that allows that. Now there are other forms of movement. So Lady Shel, take possession of your token, and I want you to use the arrow keys on your number lock pad. Now, not everyone has that the pad because you might have a gaming keyboard, but if you have that pad, you can move diagonally and forward and backwards if you have the 1 through 9 keys. So go ahead and move with the keys instead of manually with your mouse.
I must need to put the number lock on then, right?
I don't know. But make sure that you click on your token first. There you go. So she can move with her arrow keys, and then and diagonal for like number 9 and number 1. And now I'll go ahead and approve it.
That was the number 3 to go diagonal down.
Yes. So just so you know that you can also use your arrow keys, and if you're wondering how to go diagonal, you have to have the number pad on the right-hand side. Some of the more modern gaming keyboards do not have that number pad. So and it may be different on a Mac. So just keep that in mind. So basically, that's how the token works now. So you have 3 different settings. One is just a free-for-all setting. One keeps in consideration how far you're moving diagonally. And then the other one is true movement.